How to find inner peace. Have you ever struggled with finding inner peace? I know I have. In 2013, I lost my mom to cancer, having a sudden spiritual awakening. And after 13 months of realizing that I had lived a life full of agony and pain and sorrow and sadness and depression and anxiety, all that fun stuff, I was like, you know what, healing's not possible. And that's when on July 13th, 2014, I tried to leave this place and Archangel Michael appeared, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. And finding inner peace has been the struggle, the battle, the story of my life. And when I look at where I am today compared to where I was back then, and even in 2020, after my divorce, I hit the rocks once again. But, looking at where I am now compared to where I used to be, the main thing that I've discovered in my own personal healing journey when it comes to discovering peace within is it's not, a lot of times we think it's okay, we want to be here, so we have to excel at this or that, XYZ. It's not really about perfecting certain things in our life that we would like to accomplish. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's about learning to accept our weaknesses. It's about learning to accept our shadow side. A lot of times in the spiritual community, we'll hear things like, if you want to manifest your dream life, focus on the 9 things that are going right in your life and ignore the one thing. But in my opinion, that's kind of like saying, if your arm is on fire, you should ignore it and just focus on, your other arm, your legs, and your head that's not on fire. But that's kind of silly, right? In my opinion, you want to put out that fire right away. And what does that mean? That means diving into your shadow. That means looking at all the aspects of yourself that you don't like and learning to accept them, learning to love them. For me personally, for a long time, there was an aspect of me that was like, fuck this life fucking sucks. And then when I'd get in a more heart-centered space, I'd be like, well, that's not very loving. That's not very roses and butterflies kind of shit, right? But as soon as I sat down with this aspect of myself that was like, fuck this life that we're in, this is bullshit. And I started to have more compassion towards that aspect of me. And I started to focus on all the reasons why there was this aspect of me in the first place. And I started to have compassion for that aspect. I started to, understand where this part of me was coming from. The more I accepted it, the less resistance I had. And, the more I find myself starting to enjoy this life. So if you sit down with your shadow aspects, focus on the areas in your life that you think you're failing at, you focus on the parts of your life that you think you could have done better, the aspects of you that you're not really too thrilled with, and learn to accept them and learn to be more compassionate about yourself. One of the things we do, one of the biggest mistakes we make when it comes to finding inner peace is beating ourselves up for having certain thoughts or feelings or beliefs that we feel don't align with where we want to go. Once you release resistance to those aspects of you, what I've found is that it just becomes easier to be happier and more loving. For a long time, I beat myself up for not being where I wanted to be in regards to career. And once I was like, okay, well, you know what? This is the way it is, and this is where we're headed. Then it doesn't have such a pull on you. So stop beating yourself up if you're looking for inner peace. It's not about ignoring those aspects of you that you don't love. It's about diving headfirst into them and getting rid of that anger, because as long as you think, oh, all I got to do is focus on my career and once the money comes in, everything will be good. No, because you're still going to have those shadow aspects of you. Dive into them right now, heal them, get over them, do what you got to do. And once you do that, you'll be much more accepting, loving, and at peace.